Alrighty, we're back with Insider Betting. Jesse, I appreciate you joining me. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. I'm happy I bought my tickets, my flights. I'm all booked up to travel to Saudi Arabia because I'm ready to see Khamzat Chimaev in action. I've been waiting for a while. So
You're on the same boat as the Conor McGregor fans going to Vegas.
yeah, exactly.
First official UFC card in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh specifically. This card, it's billed like a Saudi Arabia card. It's billed like a pay-per-view, but it's a fight pass, right? Or a fight night, I should say.
Night, yeah.
The co-main event and the main event could both perhaps main event a pay-per-view, but definitely co-main event a pay-per-view. Two great fights to end the night, and a lot of really good ones on the card in general. But let's get right into it. The fight that arguably I'm most excited for, though, is the opening card of the main card, and it's actually the first even odds I've seen in a long time for the main card, both at -110. We got Johnny Walker, who's ranked 7th in the light heavyweight division, versus VOLKAN OEZDEMIR.
VOLKAN OEZDEMIR.
Sorry, OEZDEMIR.
Yeah.
I love Johnny Walker. I saw Johnny Walker fight in Vegas for Nate Diaz's final fight there against Tony Ferguson. And it was the beginning of his 3-fight win streak. And I was watching him. I was super excited to see him. Then he had that fight with Magomed Ankalaev where it was a no contest because I think he got eye poked or something like that. And they were like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "The desert."
No. It was an illegal knee on the ground, and that's what it was. It was ruled a no contest because of it.
Because he couldn't tell them where he was, which was a little controversial for the doctor.
The doctor misunderstood, made a bad decision, but yeah, that's why. And then they ended up headlining the Apex card where Walker got knocked out.
Yeah. So it's a redemption fight is what I'm getting at, and I'm excited to see Walker. He's like a very unconventional fighter in a sense. He's just fun to watch, dude. But that also puts him in situations where he can get knocked out because of the way he fights. But I think for us fans, that makes for an exciting fight. Personally, I think that Johnny Walker's height, and sorry, we actually have a graphic made up for this, so might as well put it in here. Yeah, so Johnny Walker, his height, he's got a height advantage of 5 inches. He's 6'6" versus OEZDEMIR being 6'1". I think his height and unpredictable style of fighting should get him the win. But he just sets himself to be knocked out as well. So I think I would still bet on Johnny Walker just because I like him. But when you bet emotionally, that's kind of what happens is that you lose. But sometimes you got to go with the heart.
No, you're not wrong. I think Walker should win this fight. But you're right. He fights very unconventionally. So any time that Walker fights, he's at risk of making a mistake that's going to cost him a fight, especially against a guy who's as experienced as VOLKAN OEZDEMIR. I will say VOLKAN is entering the phase of his career where he's kind of entering gatekeeper status. And I know that's kind of a 4-letter word for a lot of fighters who have been around a long time, but he's entering that phase of his career where he is kind of a gatekeeper for the light heavyweight division. You can compete for a title. You can get into the title contention talks if you can beat this guy, right? And VOLKAN OEZDEMIR is definitely one of those guys. I just think that Johnny Walker's athleticism should kind of carry him in this fight. He can out-athlete VOLKAN in a way, I guess is the way I would put it. Takedown defense is really good for VOLKAN. I mean, 80% takedown defense, that's great, but I don't think that that's going to be relevant because Walker is not going to try and take him down very often. I think that he's going to try and finish him. He's got good jiu-jitsu, but that's not going to really play a factor unless he knocks VOLKAN down and then goes for submissions. So the fact that Walker does not have a high percentage for significant strikes, it's only 54%. He's very inaccurate. That's where I think VOLKAN's openings are going to be because they're going to sort of match each other in that way. But Walker has the power advantage where I feel like VOLKAN has less margin for error. He can't get touched in this fight. Once Walker touches him, I think that it's over kind of deal. So I think that's where the edge is going to be found. At -110, this is a virtual coin flip, and I think you should hammer Johnny Walker. I think those are the best odds you're going to get in something that I see as a virtual lock.
I agree. And to kind of touch on what I was saying earlier where the lines might change, I think this is one where the lines might change.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think the fans are gonna hammer Walker, and because they hammer Walker, the odds are gonna get a little worse for him with time closer to the fight. I
If
also
it's
want to
still close to a -110 by Thursday, you should by the time you see this, you should hammer it.
hammer it.
Yeah.
I want to show some OEZDEMIR some love as well, because I'm a fan of Walker, so I showed him some love. But OEZDEMIR has a win versus Bogdan Guskov, who was on a 4-fight win streak before losing to OEZDEMIR and has won 2 fights since losing as well. I will also say that OEZDEMIR beat Magomed Ankalaev, who Walker lost to. Or no, sorry, I take that back. He lost him as well. He lost him. That's my apologies there. But
he
is
did
a
beat
great
Rakic though.
He did beat Rakic. He beat Paul Craig as well, who's kind of like that another gatekeeper status there. But he is a great fighter in a sense as well, I think.
Yeah, but I'm looking at his record a little bit. He to prove my gatekeeper point, he lost to Cormier on Cormier's win to a title. He lost to Anthony Smith on Anthony Smith's way to fighting John Jones for the title. He lost to Dominic Reyes on Dominic Reyes's path to fighting John Jones for the title and beating John Jones, by the way. That's, might be controversial to some. He beat Alexander Rakic, which is great. And then what happened? He lost to Yuri Prohaska on Yuri Prohaska's way to fighting for the title. And he lost to Magomed Ankalaev on Magomed Ankalaev's way to fighting Jan Blachowicz for the title. That is a gatekeeper. And I do want to show him some love. He is a very, very solid fighter, and his record is indicative of the quality of competition and not the quality of him as a fighter. We have to remember that when you're fighting guys that are in the top 10, you're going to be a guy that's 5-5 a lot. You're just going to see those guys a lot. It's not a bad thing. It's just that he fights really good guys.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Anyways,
but our next card on the main card is a couple of less known fighters for sure. Weird that this one is coming after the Johnny Walker fight.
I know. I noticed. This feels like a prelim fight.
It does feel like a prelim fight, but from some of the analysts that I was watching, a lot of people seem to be somewhat excited for this fight. It should be a bit of a brawl. We have Mohamed NAIMOV versus Felipe Lima. This was I was actually wrong. This is the fight that doesn't have odds on DraftKings.
Oh, okay.
The Shara Bullet is a favorite -160 versus Joelton being +124.
Oh, hammer Shara Bullet -160.
You got to hammer
that.
Yeah, -160.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, this fight just seems to be a little bit weird. Weird to be on the main card. I don't know much about these fighters, so I don't want to talk too much. But from my understanding, Felipe Lima is making his UFC debut. NAIMOV is 3-0 in the UFC. He's 11-2 overall. They're both on 5-fight win streaks, if not even more, but their last 5 are all wins. NAIMOV, super well-rounded, and can strike, but he can grapple as well. I think he's probably going to end up taking the win here over Felipe Lima on his UFC debut, just because of a little bit of that extra experience he has. But this fight's not that exciting. Yeah, that's kind of my breakdown here.
Yeah, I would just on a just looking at it outside looking in. I agree. I'm not very well known with these guys. NAIMOV has some wins over Jamie Malarkey and Nathaniel Wood. Those are quality wins, and he's also got more finishes. He's younger. Oh no, sorry, he's older. So he's in the prime at 29, whereas Lima is still kind of young for MMA. He's 26, but wins over quality opponents, and he gets more finishes, 6 KOs versus 2 submissions out of his 11 wins. So whereas Lima, less than half of his wins have come by decision. It feels like we're probably going to see NAIMOV winning this fight, if I'm guessing. And if I were to guess what the odds would be when they do come out, they're probably going to be kind of close.
Yeah. On the UFC site, they were -135 and +114.
There you go. Exactly.
The graphic, but there was just nothing on DraftKings yet. That's all.
Oh, sorry. I'm seeing them here. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Got so it. These stats are from the UFC.
Got it.
But yeah, we won't spend too much time on this fight. Let's talk about the feature fight of the night, and that's D-Rod versus Kelvin Gastelum. Super interesting fight. Kelvin Gastelum is coming in at minus 250. D-Rod is coming in at plus 205. Kelvin has a loss to Sean Brady. He's got a win over Chris Curtis, and then he's got 2 losses versus Cannonier and Whittaker for his last 4 fights. D-Rod, he was on a win streak for a little bit, but his 2 most recent fights were losses against Ian Gary and Neil Magny. It feels like Kelvin is just he's wildly talented, but it just kind of like Johnny Walker, he doesn't always put it fully together, it seems like, and sometimes kind of loses out on fights. It feels like he should win. It really does, but you just never know. I'm still probably leaning towards Kelvin. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
This is tough. Daniel Rodriguez is a friend of the channel. We do like D-Rod a lot. I actually recorded a podcast with Daniel Rodriguez in our studio in LA, and I got to watch him do some freestyle rapping on a microphone, and that was fun to watch. So he was having some fun.
Mm-hmm.
D-Rod got kind of screwed by a tainted supplement test recently, where he got a suspension for banned substances, but it turns out it was a tainted supplement. Seems like the UFC is on his side, that it was accidental. So I'll take his word on that. Against Li Jingliang, sorry. People felt like he didn't win that fight. It's a close one. But I will say about the Neil Magny fight, I think D-Rod was doing some really good things. And he was on his way to winning that fight and got caught in a submission. Just kind of put himself into a bad spot. This feels like the UFC is kind of doing Gastelum a little bit of a favor, because Gastelum really had trouble with Sean Brady, who's an excellent grappler. I mean, Sean Brady just a clean sweep on Gastelum in that fight. And then by the round 3, he just had nothing left, and he got submitted. It feels like now they're like, okay, well, you got submitted by a grappler. We're going to give you a striker now. D-Rod's a pure boxer. He's a street boxer. So that's what this fight's going to be. So I think that if Gastelum implements a heavy wrestling approach, D-Rod is going to be in some trouble here. But I actually think D-Rod is offering some really good value at a plus 250. What is it, 250? Where is it? 205.
205.
I kind of like D-Rod here. It's one of those things where I don't know if I want to make a bet until I watch the first minute of a fight. You know what I mean? Like, I just need to see what the first minute looks like. Because I agree with you. I feel like Gastelum, he's kind of like a little all over the place. And I thought that him moving down to 170 was going to be like his, like, oh, everything's going to click. But he did not look good at 170. He didn't.
No.
And if that's the case, I kind of feel like D-Rod is like getting a little disrespected by the odds on this one. And I think that you're getting a good opportunity to actually make some good money. They might have gotten this wrong. I understand why the odds are where they are. But I like D-Rod, man. I think he can get it done.
I like that. No. Yeah, I think you're spot on with your analysis as well. With Kelvin needing to wrestle. I think he needs to wrestle to win this fight. I also think he has a strong chin. So even if they strike it out.
Oh, amazing chin. Yeah.
He hasn't been knocked out. So I think there's still a chance that even if it's a striking bout, that he still wins this. I know D-Rod's good odds, but from the past several weeks, brother, good odds don't get you wins.
Yeah. Go back and watch the Izzy fight with Gastelum. He took some nasty shots, like head kicks, and he just kept standing. It was insane.
Yeah. But I will say that for me, I don't need to see the first minute of the fight. I want to see how these guys weigh in. That's where I'm waiting to place my bets.
Yeah, but man, he lost to Izzy, Darren Till, Jack Hermanson. His only wins are over Ian Heinisch and Chris Curtis. I mean, I know that he's been fighting really good guys, but like, I kind of feel like this is more of a 50-50 fight than it is a 60-40 as the odds would suggest. I think because I think D-Rod's takedown defense is better than we realize. And I do wonder how Gastelum what his like cardio and his overall strength and conditioning is at 170. I'm curious about it. There are questions about it. So
yeah, I mean, we got the stats right here, 64%, right? He does have these down defense. But I will also say, just as much as Kelvin's wins haven't been against notable opponents, his losses have been against very notable opponents, while D-Rod's, he's got good opponents on there, but definitely not to the same status as Kelvin's
Sure.
opponents. His
Sure.
losses came, right? So their wins are somewhat equal. Their losses aren't, I would say.
Right. I guess like the only loss that I see for D-Rod that was like a clear loss was Ian Gary. Whereas like Neil Magny was like, he put himself in a bad spot. I feel like he was on his way to winning that fight.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just have a good feeling about D-Rod in this one.
Yeah.
He's had a break, he's had some time off.
They did a favor on both sides. Like you said, they did Kelvin a favor by giving him a striker, but they also they did D-Rod a favor by giving him a shorter opponent with a smaller reach, because I think when we watched that Ian Gary fight, that's really what he struggled with, is that reach advantage. And
Gary a low finish rate.
Yeah. So no, we'll see. It'll be an interesting fight.
Yeah, but I actually think it's a banger. It's actually a banger of a fight. It's going to be good.
It's going to be that's what I'm saying, dude. This card is insane. Like, this is going to be a super fun fight.
Yeah.
4 out of the 5 fights on the main card are like must see or must watch. Yeah. Anyways, we got best.
Speaking of must watch, holy shit.
Yeah, we got the bestie brawl. Alexander Volkov versus Sergei Pavlovich, the 4th and 5th ranked fighters in the heavyweight division. Super interesting fight. Both of their recent losses are both against Tom Aspinall. They both have wins over Tai Tuivasa recently as well. Pavlovich is coming in at -205, and Volkov is coming in at +170. Now, this is one where I think the odds are very nice for us fans, or for us bettors. And I think that the odds are backwards on the screen here, but Volkov is +170 actually.
Okay, yeah, that is correct. Yeah, that is wrong. Right.
Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, I think Volkov has an extremely high fight IQ. Pavlovich, he's extremely fast for a heavyweight. He also has crazy volume. I believe he has about 8 strikes per minute landed, where Volkov's strikes per minute are about 5 per minute. So clear advantage there. He's just, again, crazy volume. The question mark here is we haven't seen Pavlovich need to grapple that much in the past. I think he has 0 takedown attempts or defenses, and he's only been taken down once, I believe, in the UFC. So it's hard to kind of see where that's going to go. So I think that's Volkov's advantage.
Well, yeah, and he just submitted Tai Tuivasa, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely Volkov's advantage here. Because if you look at Sergei Pavlovich's fights, one first round loss to Tom Aspinall in a fight, by the way, where going into that fight, he was the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. Yeah. Pavlovich was the guy that everybody was avoiding. Terrifying power. Knocking out everybody. What he did to Tai Tuivasa was horrifying to watch. I mean, he absolutely steamrolled him. But listen to this. Since his last fight in FNG, first round knockout, and then in his debut at UFC, he got a KO loss to Alison Overeem in the first round. Ever since then, first round knockout, 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 first round loss to a knockout. I mean, if you're going to bet an under in this fight, you would think it's going to be the under 1.5 rounds bet, right? Or first round finish bet. But like you mentioned, these dudes are really good friends. We don't have odds on this yet. I would wager a little sprinkle that this fight might go a little bit longer because these guys don't want to seriously hurt each other because they are good friends. But I'm still taking Sergei Pavlovich whichever way. -205 is good enough for me to feel like he's a good enough bet because this guy was on his path to being a heavyweight champion before he met Tom Aspinall. So I do want to see him fight Tom Aspinall again, and I do feel like he's going to win this fight.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, we'll have to see how this one goes. I think I'm leaning towards Volkov, but okay. I'm still a little 50-50. I'm going to wait a little bit to I'll make a TikTok that's going to go live Friday or Saturday that's going to break down my final picks.
No question, Volkov's a good bet, and he's getting really good odds. No question about it.
I just think when you see such a grappling advantage in the heavyweight division, it gasses them out so much that all he needs is one takedown, keep him on the ground for a while, gas him out, and then maybe go out there and throw some punches. But
the first round is going to be very important for Volkov.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very important. It's crucial. It's everything in a sense, because if he makes it past the first round, it means he probably has gassed Pavlovich a little bit because he doesn't make it past the first round.
We haven't seen Pavlovich go deep enough to know if he gets gassed. You know what I mean? You have to get through the first round. You just have to. So
yeah, that's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Anyways, main event of the night. It was going to be extremely exciting. It's still going to be somewhat exciting. Khamzat Chimaev pulled out final second. Ikram Aliskerov was supposed to fight last weekend against Antonio Tricoli, I believe is his name. Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend. We'll call him that. Yep. And he was a massive favorite. Like, I think it was minus 1450. On Thursday, he gets the call mid-weight cut saying, "Hey, we know you're in Vegas, and we know you flew to Vegas from the Middle East, not from the Middle East. I think he's Russian, but we know you flew over to Vegas. We need you to fly back and fight Robert Whittaker next week." And the guy goes, mid-weight cut, no problem, let's do it. It's his chance to go to a championship. If he wins this fight, there's a good chance they put him up for either probably a contender fight, I'd assume, but it could earn him a title shot as well. We just know that the middleweight division is pretty stacked. So I don't know if that takes him to the title shot right away. But it's a very interesting fight. Very, very interesting fight. His only loss has been to Khamzat Chimaev.
Correct.
We've seen some incredible striking from Ikram. We haven't seen his grappling, but we know he's an incredible grappler as well based on his fight with Khamzat, where he was stuffing takedown defenses like no one has done it to Khamzat before. It's just going to be a good fight, I think. You have a guy who you have all the tape in the world, you know everything about Whittaker, versus someone who you really don't know much about, and we're going to learn a lot about him on this fight. Whittaker is coming in as a minus 155 favorite. Ikram is coming in at a plus 124 underdog. I'm kind of leaning towards Ikram, but I don't want to disrespect Whittaker like that.
I don't blame you. I'll preface everything that I'm about to say by saying, Robert Whittaker can literally beat any middleweight in the world. He can 100%. Beat any middleweight in the world. Ikram, not only did he lose to Khamzat Chimaev, he got knocked the fuck out by Khamzat Chimaev, brutally knocked out. But Khamzat Chimaev has maintained to this day that even though it was a first round knockout, that was still the toughest fight of his life, was against Ikram Aliskerov. Because Ikram was doing some amazing things in that first round. Truly, just he throws shots from very weird angles, very unorthodox striking. I don't want to say it's similar to Yuri Prohaska, but he definitely is just awkward, I would say. It's just awkward striking. What we've seen so far from Ikram in the UFC, on Dana White's Contender Series, he had a submission, Kimura, and then he brutally knocks out Phil Hawes, and then gets a brutal flying knee against Warley Alves. This is such a weird curveball of a fight. But Ikram feels like a guy that's kind of destined for a title shot. And I don't know if you're going to get better odds in a fight against Robert Whittaker than a plus 124. Because, I'm guessing Khamzat was a favorite when Whittaker and him were fighting. I don't know how the odds shifted in that way, but this guy is dangerous. And I think that this is going to be a fight that we're going to see kind of not like a passing of the torch, but we're going to kind of see that Whittaker's, he's not in his Dustin Poirier phase quite yet, but he's getting close, where he's running out of opportunities for that title shot, for that one last chance at Izzy. And I have a feeling this reminds me a lot of Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. This is a very similar situation. And I'm not sure if Whittaker is going to do to Aliskerov what Poirier did to Saint Denis. I think Aliskerov is kind of destined to win this fight. It's a very weird shift in storyline here, but that sets up a potential title eliminator matchup between Khamzat and Aliskerov. And that the one guy that he's lost to, he gets a rematch against, and it could be that's the fight that we could end up seeing. So that's where I think this story's going.
Yeah. No, I agree. I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Beard, no mustache is typically a lock. And like
OV.
you say, OVEV is typically a lock. I don't want to push it too hard, but I think Ikram is going to pull it off. Whittaker can 100% do what Dustin did to Benoit Saint Denis. The question is, will he do it? And I think the answer is no, unfortunately.
Whittaker's takedown defense has always been amazing. Right? That's 83% right there, right? Yeah. So it's always been amazing. He's made a career. He's like one of the best karate practitioners you will ever see in the UFC. And he defends takedowns so well. But what I think Ikram has going for him here is that he can strike. He's super well-rounded. He can strike almost as well as he can grapple. I mean, look at the significant strikes. He's 23 percentage points higher. His finish rate is 20 points higher. His takedown defense is about the same. And he's Sambo, longer reach, younger, same height. Everything is pointing to Ikram winning this fight, in my eyes. And I just think at a plus 24, I think that's about the best you're going to get against a guy like Robert Whittaker. So I hate to say it, I think he's my favorite pick of the night.
Yeah. And look, we don't have the odds for this yet, but when the odds come out, if you're going to bet on this fight, I would bet on a Ikram knockout. And I think if it goes to decision, I would put my money on Whittaker. So I think that's are fair bets to sprinkle a little on each and see what happens.
Yep.
But with that being said, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, we're excited to have you finally part of the UFC. It's going to be a great card. That was insider betting, though. Jesse, I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah.
And I'll see you next week, brother. We'll be back live next week.
Yes. This is, correct. You're not seeing this live. That is right. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be
next week is UFC 303. It's going to be
a fun one.
Do not miss that one.
No, that'll be a good one. We'll have a lot of bets going for you guys then. We'll have a few different parlays going. Unfortunately, we couldn't get them here today because the odds aren't live yet. But TikTok, Instagram at Fight Season Podcast, Season SZN. I'm going to put a breakdown of this card with some prop bets as well. Keep a lookout Friday, Saturday. That was our betting analysis. Those were our predictions. Those were our picks. Thank you so much, guys. Jesse, till next time, brother. Cheers.
Peace.